back at the board again. Now you're going to be glad to hear this is going to be the last bit of theory session. Way! And then it's all going to be on bike skills that I'm going to be demonstrating. And the plan is, after I've done the demonstration of the skills, we're actually going to be doing pucker videos with me and my son here. I'm going to get Lewis to be my guinea pig riding bikes, and we're going to, hopefully by that time I've learned how to do a bit of video editing and talking over the top of the video. I'm learning as I go here, my apologies. This was just Heath Robinson stuff on lockdown, bored the tears, decided to do something with my time. So we're going to learn how to edit videos and do voiceover and actually break it all down. This is just the component parts that we're putting together just now. So stick with it. So we're going to finish this last theory now, and then that's it, and then after that it's proving all the theory, and then going out on the road and seeing how it all gets put into practice. So in the last videos then, we were talking about body position. We were talking about steer and counter steer and tyre grip trade-off and the relationship between lean angle, etc, etc. I want to take that just a little fraction further here, a couple of things that as it finished I remembered that I didn't quite mention, and that is that if we come around here, Lewis, I want to show something just on that side. In fact, we'll stay on that side of the bike, Lewis, probably easier. On these motorbikes, this one you'll notice has been taken off, and that's what I wanted to do. This one has been taken off, a little glory peg. If you go around the other side, Lewis, you'll see on this side, we've got them here. Now, when these start, if you've got a road surface, it's a really good road surface, great tyres, and the integrity's there, tyres are all warmed up and all the rest of it, you're not braking through the corner, you're not accelerating through the corner. Most bikes will get to those starting to scrape before the bikes, and that's almost like the manufacturer saying to you, it's time to calm down a bit. We call them, they used to be called hero pegs and blobs and things like that. They've had various names over the years. But basically, in the racing, we would take them off, we would chop an inch off the end of them, lift them up an inch and stick them back an inch, rear sets, and try and get ourselves more ground clearance. So it's just to let you know that the motorcycle mechanically is designed to cope with high angles of lean, far more than the average rider is probably prepared to go around. The problem is this: can you be 100% sure? Look here, not part of our training yard as such, but you can see here loose grit and gravel. Now I've got integrity there, but if I hit that, I'm going to go down. Okay, so you need to be sure that you're on a really good grippy surface. You need to know you've got good tyres and that grip and that stability and everything's all underneath you. Now on the road, that's starting to push it too far when you get to those sort of lean angles and the sort of speeds that are required through most of our bends. To get to those sort of lean angles, you're starting to hike on a bit now. And if you want to go at those sort of speeds, I would advise fully the racetrack. Now, as someone that's come from the racetrack, the great thing about that is you can get to go up to the racetrack, you can take your high performance motorcycle up there, really explore its true limits and the bike, well, what is your limits, but you can begin to practice the skills that's required to feel really comfortable and confident on a motorcycle in a brilliant environment where you're all going in one direction. You know what the surface is like, there's marshals there giving you green flags. If you did come off your motorcycle, there's paramedics, etc. there. And that's a great environment to really explore the limits of a motorcycle. If you're riding on the road though, I would say to you, always ride not only within the bike's limits, but always ride well within your own limits. That's very, very important. So that was a little bit about the lean angles and just how far over can a bike lean. It'll lean over until those things start scraping, providing, as I say, you've got good tyres, good integrity, suspension working right, and you're not breaking through the corners and you're not doing it daft. And we'll show you some videos on that as well, by the way. Okay, so back to this again now with this. We're now going to go on to just throttle control here, gears, clutch and the brakes. And I'm going to do this one fairly quickly because I'm actually going to do more practically with these rather than the theory. So the throttle control, that was all about, remember, being in the right gear so that you can basically control your speed for accelerating, decelerating and able to maintain the speed through the corners. And being in the right gear gives that correct throttle control that you need. So the gears are really linked to the throttle control, and good throttle control not only allows you to approach and deal with all your hazards progressively as part of the system of control, so you're not braking at the last moment, you're using your throttle to control your speed approaching, passing through and exiting the hazards. But your throttle control, remember, we said was also related to your ability to steer the motorcycle through the corner as well. You can effectively make the bike tighten in the corner by rolling the throttle back in a controlled fashion and opening it up in a smooth way. You can make the bike start to run wide as it exits the corner as well. Now, I agree, a lot of people say, oh but no, when you brake through a corner the bike sits up. Yes it does. If you grab a hold of the brake remember, and we're going to go into the brakes next, you've pitched the weight towards the front and the outside, so the bike would want to sit up in the corner and run wide. But if you close the throttle and the control fast and keep the lean angle the same, trust me, the bike will tighten up in the corner. So throttle control, very important. Now the gears and the clutch, we've already mentioned them earlier, I'm not going to say too much more, but suffice to say that you should always be in the right gear before you enter the bend, not when you're halfway through the bend and not thinking about the drop in the gears when you're exiting the bend. Get the right gear before you get into the bend, and that right gear is going to be right in the juicy part of the top curve, so that when you open the throttle the bike wants to pull you away, and when you want to close the throttle it wants to slow you down. And most big bikes on country roads it's usually third or fourth gear. The clutch, suffice to say that when you are downshifting through the gears, you want a smooth release of the clutch. A lot of the bikes nowadays are fitted with the slipper clutches. Remember when I used to race the old K3, if you dumped the clutch too early in the downshift, the rear wheel would start chattering on the way into the corners. When I got the K5, it was absolutely brilliant, I couldn't believe it. Pulled the clutch in and just started kicking down through the gears and dropping the clutch out and letting the slipper clutch take care of it. My mechanic pointed out though that I was still abusing the motorcycle by doing that. So we've got slipper clutches on the bikes now which help to effectively synchronise the engine speed to the road speed by using a slipper clutch on the downshift. This is especially important on big V twins, but remember that if you're being abusive, pulling the clutch in and bumping down through the gears quickly and just dumping the clutch out, there's a system inside that has to take care of that. So try and still show mechanical sympathy even though you've got a slipper clutch. Now there's a lot of different ways that you can downshift. Some people use what's called the sustained throttle downshift. That is when they close the throttle just as they go to downshift, they'll pull the clutch in, bring the revs up slightly, downshift, and then ease the clutch back out again, and the engine revs picked up means that the engine speed, road speed are matched, smoother downshift. I'll use that one when I've got a pillion on, for example. The other one is the closed throttle downshift. That's when you close the throttle completely, you pull the clutch in, you downshift. You've got to be really smooth letting the clutch out with that one. Let out. When you feel it engage, hold it there momentarily and then release it out. You're like a manual slipper clutch. If you just dump it through, the clutch down, you'll get a jerk on the downshift and your pillion passenger dunts your helmet. Now the other one is the blipped downshift. That's where you pull the throttle in, give it a blip, downshift and let the clutch out. You hear a lot of the racers doing that. They've got automatic blippers on a lot of the bikes nowadays, so it does that for you. And the reason for that was that if you blip the revs up as you downshifted, let the clutch out, the engine speed and the road speed matched, and you've got a smooth downshift. Now what would the police use in Roadcraft? They tend to use what's called the sustained throttle downshift. That is, they close the throttle to get their engine brake to begin with. As they're pulling the clutch in, they bring the revs up slightly, downshift and ease the clutch out so engine speed, road speed are matched. So you're always trying to match your throttle and your gears and your clutch and coordinate all your controls. Alright, now just finishing off here, what time we got here, Lewis?
Coming up 8 minutes, that's 8 minutes on the
good,
dot.
Okay, 8 minutes. I'm just aware of time, see. Now then, the brakes, we're going to go into the brakes next. Now I'm actually going to get out on the road next, and I'm going to be doing physical demonstrations for you to actually prove all this theory that I've been yakking on about. Go out, take some photographs, man-made natural features and road signs and mode markings, pictured road surfaces for you, and show you the kind of stuff that I've been talking about here, and also demonstrate a lot of this for you as well. So I'm not going to say too much on the brakes here because I'd rather prove this practically for you. But suffice to say that on a motorbike, we all know that the front brake is the most efficient brake on a motorcycle. I've had to write do some expert witness work, and I've had to write some reports where unfortunately the rider has been involved in an accident which in some cases has been life-changing injuries or worse still. And in some cases, if the rider had just known how to use their brakes, unfortunately, well, the rider could have still been here today, put it that way. And in some cases it's very, very sad when you see an incident where someone has lost their life purely simply because they didn't know how to use their brakes properly. The front brake is a very, very powerful brake on a motorcycle, and used properly you'd be amazed at how quick that can bring the speed down a motorbike. The distances that are quoted in the highway code, forget those. The rear brake, not as efficient as the front brake, as you know, but used correctly and used in conjunction with the front brake can be still very effective. Both brakes used together, especially in the wet. In the wet, I do tend to use my front and rear brake together. Now in the L test, we're always sort of teaching that there'll be more balanced braking front and rear on a wet road surface, and we teach that the front brake is the most powerful brake, and that you would tend to use more front than the rear on a dry surface. All I'm going to say to you is that when you get more skilled with a motorcycle, you start to use the brake that's required for that moment at that time and that situation that you're in. For example, if I'm in this yard here riding about doing slow speed riding, I'm just on the rear brake completely. If I'm out on a very, very wet road surface and I close the throttle, I don't go straight for the front brake, which I would teach in L test. I tend to bring a little bit of back brake in first, just to squat the suspension down a little bit, get a little bit of weight on the nose of the bike, and then I go and bring in my bit of front brake, because I don't want that heavy transition weight transfer towards the front on the wet surface. However, if we're racing or riding, doing some performance riding, then I would tend to go for the front brake and bring it in still in a progressive way, shifting the weight. I never snatch the front brake. If you think of a chair with no one sitting on it, it's easy to drag. If you put weight on the chair, it's harder to drag. It's the same idea with a front tyre. You've only got so much of a curve. Think of it as a balloon on a table. There's a small contact patch. As you begin to brake, then you begin to transfer the weight towards the front of the motorcycle. That flattens the contact patch of the tyre out and you can brake harder. As you begin to slow now though, the forward momentum isn't as much, and therefore the amount of weight on the front tyres beginning to reduce now, and that contact patch now is beginning to reduce. That's why you're easing off the brakes. So it's light application initially with the brakes, a progressive increasing of the brakes, and then as you're getting closer towards the corner you should be easing off the brakes. We're going to talk a little bit about trail braking, and I'm going to talk about the advantages of trail braking as well and where it could be used. But for now we're going to keep it pretty simple, that the brakes should be used before you enter the bend and brakes released. So at no point should we see the brake light on and the bike starting to lean at the bend. Not at this stage of what I'm talking about just now. It eventually would be, but again it's what we call trail braking. It's got to be done correctly. You've got to know what you're doing, and you've got to know the reasons for why you're doing it as well. So we're going to be showing the effect of the brakes and just how good the brakes are. So where are we at time wise, Lewis?
It's 12 minutes.
12 minutes, I think it's time to cut that video then. Thank you very much. We're now going to be more practical stuff out in the road now. We're going to be showing you limit point out in the road and all the stuff basically I've been talking about, proving the theory to you and getting on the bikes. Okay? Thank you.